Well, Jay, can you just walk us through, I guess, first Preston Smith, what you guys saw in him, why you made the decision there?
Preston has great versatility, and he's 6'5", 270 pounds. He's lined up all over the defensive front. He's been a nose guard. He's been a 5 technique. He stood up. He can drop in coverage. You watch him at his pro day and at the combine, you see the athleticism that he has. We feel like he's still a young kid growing, and there's still a lot we can build upon with his body frame the way it is. Very long arms, explosive player, and there's a lot of spots that he can play.
Is it outside linebacker that he'll start at, or where do you see him fitting in when you guys get on the field
in
next
base
week?
defense, probably start out outside linebacker. But there's so much nickel nowadays that he can be a defensive end. He can stand up. He can be a 3 technique. There's a lot of different things he can do, which makes him so appealing to the eye. Because, like I said, he's 6'5", 270. He's got the strength to hold the point of attack. He's got the ability to rush the passer. And like I said, he's long and gets in passing lanes and can be disruptive that way.
And then move on to Matt Jones with the second pick. What did you see in him?
Well, Matt's a physical runner, and he's a downhill type runner. He's, we had him in for a visit a couple weeks ago, and we liked his attitude. We liked what he knew about football and his passion for the game and his running style. He's a little bit different than what we've had around here. He's a downhill, smash mouth type runner and physical kid, and he's a good kid and smart and Florida guy. Went to Armwood High School, kind of where I was from, and knew a little bit about him, and he's a good guy.
You got a running back who pounds the pile, a big nasty offensive lineman. Is there a theme here to the way you want to steer this football team?
Well, it looks that way, but we're just going to try to add tough physical players, and that's the whole motto here. We're trying to add tough guys that come in here, want to compete, and the tougher the better. And both those guys we added today, and of course adding Brandon yesterday. These are 3 physical guys that love to play and love to compete, and the more the merrier.
You now are left with 7 picks rather than, I guess, 4. So just your thoughts on having those extra picks. Where generally would you like to use them?
Well, we don't know. We're going to wait and see how it goes. We'll have meetings tomorrow. We've got the board pretty much set the way we want it, and then we'll have discussions tomorrow morning before our pick comes and try to do our due diligence and figure it out. Talk to the coaches and Scott, obviously, and we'll go from there. But there's still a lot of players left that can help us, a lot of different positions, and we'll take all that in consideration and make a good Redskin decision.
You talk about Matt being a physical downhill runner, something that hasn't been here in a while. How does Alfred fit into all this? And far as that, is it something that you felt that he can't do or wouldn't be able to give you enough?
Alfred won't be affected. Alfred's still a running back here, and he's had 3 great seasons, and that won't change. But to add another guy that can come in here and pound the rock a little bit doesn't hurt anything. It'll help Alfred in that regard, taking some carries off of him. But for the most part, Alfred will be getting the bulk of the carries, and Matt will get some too, obviously.
And then I know his pass receiving or his catching numbers weren't that high down there. Some people think that something he can do just wasn't given enough. How do you feel how he translates to that area?
We feel like he can catch. Like you said, he wasn't asked to catch a lot, but if you watch him at, his workouts, he's caught the ball fine. And Randy did a lot of work on him, Jordan, our running back coach, and feels like he catches the ball fine. But the big thing is if he can take the ball from the quarterback's hand, we'll stick it in his belly. He won't have to catch it too often. But, he's a good all-around player. He just hadn't asked to do that. I think he'd be a good core special team player, too, the toughness that he has and the way he plays. There's a chance he could play special teams, too. But we'll get him in here, find out what he can do well, and try to use it to our advantage.
What do you think might be the most difficult part of a transition to an outside linebacker spot, if that is where Smith winds up playing? And do you see him as somebody ready to be a starter in the NFL already?
I think the transition should be easy for him because he's so athletic. That's one thing that drew us to him was his athleticism. When you watch him work out, he's got smooth hips and very good athlete, fluid. He can drop into coverage. He caught the ball like a tight end at his pro day, very athletic. So I don't think it'll be hard for him. Like I said, we're in base defense nowadays very few times throughout the course of a football game, maybe 30% of the time, but he'll learn it. And he can also play 5 technique, which is good about him. He's 6'5", 270, like I said. His versatility is what drew us to him, and we'll find out a good spot to put him.
I know Scott said on Monday that he had hoped to accumulate 10 picks or around there as you guys woke up this morning and entered the second day, how important was that for you? Is that something that you set out to do, or just an opportunity that kind of came along as the day progressed?
It was an opportunity that came along, but I think we see there's a lot of merit in the later rounds of this draft. There's a lot of good football players to be had. We just got to do our work and make sure we take some good players. But like I said, the depth of this draft we feel like is pretty good, and get a good guy in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, a couple of them that can help your football team. They don't have to be immediate starters. They can add to your depth. They can help special teams. But I think there's good quality there in the later rounds, and to have a couple more is good.
Still on the trade, when you're dropping, I think it was 26 spots. Are you just kind of taking a leap of faith that there's still going to be, a player worthy of that round there, or are you counting? You're not.
Yeah,
counting
I wouldn't say a leap of
players.
faith, man. These scouts have put a lot of time in there, and they've studied all these guys and graded all the guys that have not been picked, and the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round grades that we have on some players. We realize that they're good football players, and they can help our football team, and I think that's the reason why we wanted a couple extra picks.
Jay, how does the addition of Preston Smith affect Trent Murphy, and do you believe they could even be complementary players?
Yeah, it doesn't affect them. When you add football players in a draft, our guys are still going to come in here and compete. Everybody's going to have a chance to compete in training camp, and that's the way it's going to be, and that's never going to change from year to year. We're always going to have a draft, and we're always going to have free agency, and there's always going to be new players in the building that have to come into training camp and earn their spot. And that's no different at the outside linebacker, defensive end spot. But both those guys really are very similar, Trent and Preston. They're both very versatile players. Trent's put on some weight. He might be able to play some defensive end also in base. So both those guys will play a lot of football, I promise you that.
Was that trade with Seattle drawn up ahead of time, like one of the scenarios Scott and you have talked about, that obviously you guys have done a lot of work, or was it something that just kind of came up while you guys were on the clock?
Yeah, it came up tonight.